Welcome everyone to round 2 of the Roush Performance Esports Pro Series. Last week we kicked it all off at Watkins Glen, where we saw 2 different winners between the sprint and the main feature race. Will we see 2 more new winners today, as the drivers must respect the bumps at Sebring? Strap in tight, you're about to see all of the action as these racers fight it out for not only the win, but also trying to claim that $2,000 championship prize. I'm Joey Atterbury, and joining me in the booth tonight is Jack Roush Jr. and Trevor Wright. Hopefully we'll get JP Roush in here at some point as well, and the man behind the broadcast making everything look top-notch on our stream is Ryan Bauer, the bearded sim racer himself. And I mentioned this is round 2 tonight, but before we get to any of the track maps, Trevor, let's give a rundown on what everyone here is fighting for.
Yeah, there is a lot up for grabs here. First place is taking home $2,000 and that $250 VRS gift certificate. Second's getting $500, third $350, fourth $200, and fifth place still takes home $100 cash prize. And going into these individual races, you're going to see featured wins, second in feature, and third in feature, and they're all going to be taking home subscriptions to VRS. So some big prizes out there, and you're going to see them fighting really hard for this cash.
It's super cool. It's the largest prize pool ever in Roush Performance Esports, and we got some serious talent out there. But this is the track that they're going to be facing here, Sebring International Raceway. It's an incredibly bumpy track that requires drivers to attack every single corner here in order to be fast. A couple big highlighted areas. Turn 1 incredibly wide. We're going to see 2, 3, 4. I wouldn't be surprised to see 5 wide, especially at the opening start of these races where everybody is bunched up. But then be careful, because the turns 3, 4, 5 complex, it approaches very, very fast, and it is slow. Some of the most technical turns here on Sebring, and you got to make sure to get that exit out of 5, because it leads you down to the turn 7 hairpin, a big time passing opportunity with a big brake zone down there. And fast forward a little bit to turn 10, I call it the party zone. If you're ever at the Sebring 12-hour, go down to turn 10. They love to party down there. It's also kind of the course of some huge amounts of action down there with some big time passing. And then a little bit further down the track, turns 15 and 16 here. You're gonna have to be really careful with these GTP cars. They like to jump over those curbs, but it can upset the car. And then down the back straightaway, the Ullman straight, into the coolest corner on this racetrack, probably the most recognizable, turn 17, Sunset Bend. We're going to be watching these GTP cars bounce their way through there all day long. Well, we did see one racetrack here before we made our way to Florida. Jack, tell us about where else we're going to.
So we got a lot more action coming up. Obviously, Watkins Glen and Sebring, both excellent tracks, very challenging. We got 2 more in store with Virginia International Raceway, VIR. Really awesome track. Tons of action, tons of little secrets that good drivers will know about that course. And to cap it off, we're going to go to Road Atlanta.
We are racing the GTP cars around these 4 different racetracks. Very fitting for a pro series are some brand new prototype race cars. And Trevor, these GTP cars, they bring 200 mile per hour plus capable top speeds, incredible aero packages, and hybrid power systems. And you got 4 to choose from.
Yeah, no, these things are super fun to watch. I mean, both in person and right here on the iRacing, they look great. They sound even better. And watching these guys work it through traffic, whether it's the Porsche, the BMW, the Acura, or the Cadillac, which you're going to hear me scream whenever it says Porsche. You'll see me kind of hand raised there. But these are some quick cars, guys, and they're just set up to be mean, aggressive, and we're going to see them take on Sebring here tonight.
Before we get to any of that action, so Watkins Glen, it just happened a short week ago, and we've got the points standings here as they currently stand. And remember, we have 2 races. We've got the sprint race plus the main feature race, so it is already shaken up just a little bit. Blake Reynolds, who he won that main feature race, but he's still back there in 3rd just simply because he didn't collect all the points possible in that sprint race. So right now it is Brandon Hawken leading the way. Jordan Johnson. Got to remember, Brandon was on the podium on both of those races. Jordan kind of got moved out of the way at the end of Watkins Glen. Blake Reynolds took home that victory, but something to note, that 0.66 of Blake Reynolds, unfortunately, because of the contact at the end of the race, he has been given a loss of qualifying out here, so he will not be able to take place in the qualifying session. He's going to be starting at the rear of the field for today. So let's actually take a look at some of these action cars on the racetrack before we get to any of the formats on the screen, because right now we got about 3 minutes left in qualifying. And Jack, something that I'm noticing on the timing and scoring pylon, we've got a very familiar name up front. Jordan Johnson, the man who won the sprint race back at Watkins Glen, he's on provisional pole.
Not surprising, Johnson showed a lot of speed at Watkins Glen, and it's going to be an awesome race. I think we're going to see some intense action just like we did last week.
Getting these awesome pictures coming across your screen here as we do ride on board with Brandon Hawken. And remember, this is your current points leader coming up to the tower turn, also known as turn 13. And we are going to be watching the steering wheel all day long, really fight the driver's hands. And Jack, I always love to get kind of your expertise, your personal experience on each of these racetracks. We've had the very fortunate kind of events to go out there and race some of these cars, not necessarily the GTPs, I should say race some of these racetracks, and you know exactly what it's like to attack these turns.
Oh, absolutely. Sebring has a lot, I mean, as you know, Joey, it has a lot of subtlety that you really need to master to be quick here. You know, for me, I spend a lot of time in iRacing just for the sim, you know, for the practice, for application in the real world, because it's that accurate. The iRacing team actually will go out to these tracks and laser scan them and just spend a ton of work just to make sure every little aspect, you know, even little things that you never even would see with your eyes is accurate. You know, and another thing, you know, I do, Joey, is, you know, is I walk the track every time I go to a track, even if I've been there 10 times. You know, it really comes down to subtle banking, or little bumps, the curbing, you know, where's their sealer on the track, all of those things. And the guys that really understand this track, they are the guys that are going to be the quickest, or girls. Especially as that last turn that we just saw, man, that is one crazy turn. Lots of bumps, again, that you'd never see, but you better know where they are, because they will bite you if you don't.
Well, and speaking of turn 17, that last turn there is Trent McMillian is having a couple little technical difficulties. Kind of tilt your head to the side and you can kind of see inside his rig there. But going back to your point, Jack, from turn 17, there's passes going in, right, based off of the brake zone, that long Omen straightaway, but also we see tons of over-under passes throughout turn 17. Some of the best racing and finishes in endurance sports car history has come not only in the entrance of turn 17, but also in the exit of turn 17 in that short sprint to the start-finish line. And we actually are done with qualifying right now, so we have your official starting grid. The number 112, Jordan Johnson, surprise, surprise, a second pole here on the Roush Performance Esports Pro Series. Pat Pelchak going to be joining next to him on row number 1. Something cool about that 919. Actually, no, he is in an Acura. My mistake. I thought it was a Porsche. Max Muir here in 3rd place. Brandon Hawken in 4th. Remember, he's your points leader. Alex Ellis in 5th. Ryan D. O'Connor in 6th. Flynn Lazier starting 7th. Paul Darling in 8th. Christian Youngwall in 9th. And then Jeff Evans will be rounding out your top 10, Jack.
And in 11th, we have Ray Kingsbury. 12th, Morgan Burkhardt. In 13th, Lance Loomis. In 14th, Colin Arnold. In 15th, Chris Walsh. In 16th, Eddie Layton. 17th, we have Mylan Harris. In 18th, we have Cameron Bidwell. In 19th, we have George Jorabanks. And in 20th, we have Murphy Nichols Trevor.
All right, picking up 21st, we got Chris Rosales. 22nd, Charles Hosea. 23rd, Cody Crosgrove. 24th, Matt Kingsbury. 25th, Robbie Swan. 26th, James Thurston. 27th, Will Chen. 28th, Michael Johnson. Steven Cherrick there in 29th. 30th, the one and only Trent McMillian. 31st, Elizer Campos. And 32nd, Hamilton A. We'll keep it simple there. 33rd there, Caleb Petrie. And 34th, Blake Reynolds. 35th, Corey V. And 36th, Rolando. We know Rolly.
That is going to be the 36 cars that we've got. And I just want to say thank you to all of the competitors as we get the shot of the ambient and track temperature. We had 37 cars at Watkins Glen. We've got 36 here at Sebring. So I just want to say thank you to all of the competitors. Thank you for showing up. You all are what makes this such a great series. And this is what we're going to be seeing tonight in terms of the action on the track. So we got qualifying that already took place. They could put down up to 4 laps in that 10-minute session. And that sets the grid here for our 15-minute sprint race. Now, this is just a straightforward 15-minute sprint race. Get your elbows out. Hopefully don't knock anybody out of the way, but it's all about track position and being aggressive, grabbing those points, and then it feeds right into our main feature race of 35 minutes. But the one curveball that the drivers are going to have to deal with out here, that main feature race, well, it's got a top 8 grid invert. So if you win the sprint, that means you got to start from 8th. If you finished 8th in that sprint, well, it is your lucky day. You get to go straight to the front and start on that provisional pole position. So that's a big curveball that all of the drivers are going to have to deal with out there, and it's just kind of what the Pro Series is about. You got to show the ultimate speed in qualifying. You got to have the aggressive race pace in the sprint, and then you really got to put it all together in terms of a full fuel load and that long, extended green flag run. And Trevor, I want to get your thoughts here because we're about halfway around this pace lap here at Sebring. Watkins Glen was an incredibly fast track with minimal passing opportunities. Sebring, it's all going to be about attacking those brake zones and respecting the bumps.
Oh, respecting the bumps is super important. And I quickly found that out actually riding alongside Jack Roush Jr. in a Stage 3 Roush Mustang. And let me just tell you, it was probably one of the rides of my life. And it was also probably the pivotal point in my career with Roush that I didn't understand the capabilities of our cars. So the moment was going down the front stretch. I don't even know how fast we were going. And I'm like, there's no way that we're making this turn. And Jack he hugged it on in there, and there we went through one. It was a bumpy ride, but it was pretty amazing. Continental Tires kept us grip, brought us right through one, and it was just simply amazing. Jack's skills of driving is of course great, but just the capabilities of these cars, it was absolutely astonishing on this track. And you keep reiterating, and I keep hearing it, bumps, bumps, bumps. That is absolutely it. Your teeth are chattering the whole time and you're hanging on, but it was a heck of a ride.
Well, if you ever visit Sebring in the real world, literally the tagline is respect the bumps, right? They got it on the billboards. They got it plastered all over the racetrack here. And we got to remember, this is an old World War II bomber base. It's an old airfield, essentially, that you used to take off from, and you still have the runways and whatnot. So lots of history here at Sebring. So pace car coming around turn 17 right now. That means everybody is going to stay nice and patient. Wait for the green flag from Barney, but it is all in the hands of that number 112, Jordan Johnson. And there is the green flag. Nice and even. Look at the 36 cars of GTP head down in towards turn number 1. 3 wide up front here at the beginning. I see 4 and even 5 wide. We got a couple spinning at the end there. Jordan Johnson is still in the lead, and I believe that's Pat Pelchat there going off at turn number 3, but it is Jordan Johnson, Max Muir, and Alex Ellis, your top 3, Jack, as they head towards the hairpin.
Oh man, what a start! Just seeing all those vehicles, all those GTP cars at the beginning. Just beautiful sight there. Unfortunately, we had some an incident, but man, I don't know with that many cars how we weren't going to have one.
We got more problems down there in the hairpin. I believe it was Flynn Lazier that got in just a touch too deep and got locked up. And trust me, we will get some awesome replays going once we have everything kind of under our belt. It is Jordan Johnson, a little bit of deja vu right now. Trevor, if we remember a Watkins Glen, you do not want to get this 112 out front.
You absolutely don't. You can't give him room. You have to keep pressure on him or he will just keep walking away. But you know, I have faith. I see the 55 car of a name from the past, Paul Darling. I have faith in Paul. Paul is extremely quick. I think between him, Max, and Ryan, I think they can reel him in here.
Well, and to talk about that 55 of Paul Darling, let's welcome him here to the Roush Pro Series, a former Roush Performance Esports champion with us. And what's really cool about Paul that I was going to make the mistake of earlier with another driver, but he is our first car that is not an Acura. So we've got Acura 1 through 3, Paul Darling in the first, Cadillac in fourth, Christian Youngwall. That rounds out your top 5 here in the first lap of the Roush Pro Series sprint race at Sebring. And we're going to keep clicking them off extremely fast. We'll keep you updated with Blake Reynolds' run through the field as these cars attack this racetrack so fast. Jack, look at how fast they are through 3, 4, 5.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and something you just mentioned there is a really interesting point. You know, we have a lot of Acuras up front. One thing I've been very interested in seeing is how these different GTP cars stack up. You know, we are in the virtual world, so theoretically people could switch between manufacturers. But we actually have a rule here that says that, you know, once you start in the series under a given car, you can't switch. It's going to cause you problems and really screw up your championship. You really need to commit to one. The reason why we did that was to make sure that, you know, people understand the vehicles and they think about, you know, it's not just about which car will be the quickest at a given track. It's about which car will be the quickest over all the tracks, because there are subtle differences. And the Acuras are showing very well. Joey, I don't know if you have any thoughts on where you think the balance of performance will advantage a given manufacturer, but really interesting to watch.
Well, to talk about that, just touch real fast, is that everybody's kind of chosen the Acura. It's kind of the fastest all around right now. However, there's plenty of horses for courses. The Porsches are fast, the Cadillacs are fast, the BMWs are even fast at some of the tracks. But the big curveball that is the giant unknown, Jack, is that the end of the season, the brand new build is coming out for iRacing. And when that happens, they usually kind of restructure the BOP classes of each of these. So everybody's chosen the Acura now. But next week, when that new build comes out, who knows what's going to be the fastest? And we're only halfway through this series. It'll be really interesting.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and that's you know, for people who aren't as familiar with race series like this in the real world, that's a huge part of what the series is responsible for. They call it BOP, balance of performance. They need their role is to make sure that all the manufacturers have a fair shot, and that's an extremely tough thing to do. You know, it's not a job that I envy. You know, they have to really understand the performance of these different vehicles that are inherently very different. You know, the center of gravity is different. The geometry, you know, it just goes on, and they have to decide, you know, do we take a little bit of power? Do we give them weight? You know, that sort of thing. Gearing, you know, do they try to balance that out? But that's kind of what we're getting at here, and it is a very critical part of racing.
And speaking of racing and just getting out there and doing it, we can't do it without some of our partners. I just want to take a moment to thank, especially this one right here, RFK Racing. They really need no introduction at all. One of the most successful NASCAR teams in history. Watch the number 6 of Brad Keselowski, team owner and driver, and then also the driver of the number 17, Chris Buescher, as they race their way through the 2024 NASCAR season. Well, things are looking eerily familiar to the sprint race right now. Jordan Johnson has stretched it out to 1.3 seconds. He does have company in the form of Max Muir chasing him, but this battle right here is actually hot. Morgan Burkhardt being chased by Cam Bidwell, Colin Arnold, and Alex Ellis. This is 4 cars all arguing for what is the 7th place position as we head down into turn 7 here, the hairpin. And you see, wow, look at El Tigre get all over the back of Morgan Burkhardt here. And Jack, you've got tons of real-world experience. While Morgan Burkhardt, the number 2 car, this is his first race in the Roush Pro Series, but I know for a fact he does a lot of SCCA racing, a lot of club racing, and I believe is even dipping the toe into some IMSA and pro racing now.
Oh, it's very cool. Well, this is going to help him. Personally, as I've attested to many times before, iRacing is an awesome platform for learning these tracks in the real world. Honestly, it's been extremely critical for me in my racing career.
Well, watch the cars roll through 15 and 16 here. Getting these awesome onboard shots. This is John Marshbanks here in the number 30. Rolling through the field as he's getting a little bit of side-by-side action. That's Lance Loomis in the 66 going up the right side here into turn 17. Looks like Lance going to outbrake him, and John actually has to watch out right behind because here's Pat Pelchat going to make it 3 wide coming off of turn 17. Look at down the front straight right here. This is 3 GTPs all arguing over one spot on the racetrack. It's going to be Pat Pelchat around the outside. And Trevor, what do you think about this?
I loved his reaction. We were watching him live on cam, and his eyes went left, right, and in the rearview mirror, and he realized that he had cars packed all around him, passing the stripe there, getting into turn 1. And I don't think you want to be that center car going into turn 1. I don't think that would be a great feeling. But I think he did great, pulled through, and is keeping a solid race going here.
Well, and we're right on board there with Blake Reynolds, which is this white and purple car. He's kind of a little bit further back in this train. He's currently 15th place, but remember, he could not qualify out here, so he had to start all the way back and way back before 30th position. So he's made his way up to 15th, up 18 spots so far. And remember, he did win that main race at Watkins Glen, but due to that penalty, had to start in the back, and he's making his way forward. Jack, maybe you can kind of relate to everybody. You've probably started at the back before, and what is that mindset that you can't wreck the car, you got to keep it clean, but you also only have 15 minutes to grab as many points as possible?
Oh man, this is, you're right. All of those factors play into how you attack a race. For a 15-minute race, you don't have time to be patient. You got to go, but at the same time, you got to keep it clean because, to finish first, you must first finish. Now, Blake, I'm wondering what he's thinking. Is he thinking he wants to go all the way up to the front? Or with this inverted field, will he be happy to stop at 8th?
Well, I think the big question, Jack, is with only 5.5 minutes remaining, can he even get up to 8th place right now, considering he's in 15th. He's got kind of a scrum right in front of him. He's definitely got some work cut out for him, but this is back to that battle for 7th place. Alex Ellis is going to be looking down the inside of Morgan Burkhardt down here into the hairpin. You see Morgan run off to the inside of the road, really go defensive, force the number 5 the long way around, and then he's really going to try to squeeze out Ellis here down the straightaway, headed down towards turn number 10, and going to see if this number 5 can make a move here. This is always a little chaotic. This is where the track gets really, really narrow, but 4 GTP cars, Morgan Burkhardt, Alex Ellis, Cam Bidwell, and Colin Arnold here. Trevor, that's the 4 cars we're watching.
Yeah, no, and this is about my favorite part where to that long straight where you're going to see it's, I think, 178 miles per hour, and then hard braking into that last corner is probably my favorite. They're able to open up because, just as you said, it's tight all through here, and now here they are on that back stretch and just keep to open it wide open. And speed, look at 150, 159, 168, 175, 178. I seen 181, 183. So there it is, guys. That is crazy. Oh, and a bad wreck. Joey, what happened there?
That, I believe, was Alex Ellis as well as Morgan Burkhardt arguing over what is, I believe, the 7th place position on the track. And Alex really sent it down the inside and was trying to get it checked up here. We're going to get this replay. And Jack, you've got so much experience. I always lean on it. Kind of what do you feel here? The 5 sent it way down in there, but the other car's got to turn to make the corner at some point.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I think the car on the outside, you know, he had a turn. He was being driven into the wall. I don't know. We'd have to look at it a little bit closer, but that's my first reaction. Do you agree?
I kind of agree with you, and I guess the best way to settle this, to explain it to everybody, right? We do have race control looking over some track limits and making sure everybody's playing fairly as Blake Reynolds continues his charge here, but it's really difficult to protest and penalize here within the actual same event. So how we do it is we've got a protest form, and if you felt wronged during the race, well, afterwards you can fill out that protest form. We got a panel including Jack, myself, and a couple other well-distinguished real-world racers that take a look at everything and kind of provide our input on how things should be handled, and that's basically how we handle all of the incidents here in the Pro Series. That way everybody has a voice out there. Sometimes when you have these incidents, you feel like you're the only one out on the racetrack and nobody's there to help you. Well, here at Roush, we're all one big group. We're happy to come out here and race, and we want to make sure everybody is racing fairly out there. Well, looks like we've got a battle going on for 21st place here. Caleb Petrie is currently battling with Flynn Lazier, and Flynn was part of that wreck at the early hairpin turn number 1, and they're actually chasing Rolly. Jack, you know Rolly really well.
Oh yeah, Rolly actually drove, as you know, for my dad's road racing team many years ago, and he also drove on my own real world road racing team at one time. Really great guy, great family. They own Fajardo Ford in Puerto Rico, and can't say enough good things about him. Just wonderful people. If you're racing against him, you may not think so, though. He's a tough racer.
He's known for trading some paint. We've seen Rolly since the very beginning, which I got to give him credit for that. Every race I think that we have hosted, Rolly has been here and been involved. But, you know, I like that flair. I like somebody that makes racing a little exciting. It's like that one friend that you bring go-kart racing, and you know that it's more or less just to laugh with, and you know he's going to do something crazy. That's kind of Rolly in a way. But at the same point, he's a great racer. He's a great driver, and he gives respect when it's due. But he's also going to probably rough you up a little bit. I think he is it knock once, knock twice, something about nice. I don't know what it is, but it's something along those lines. I think Rolly thinks along those lines.
Well, and you talk about buddies. Well, Rolly brings his best buddy along with him everywhere. Peachy, Eliza Campos out here. So whenever you're racing, it is always fun to do it with your friends out there. As we were watching some of these battles come out of turn 17, we were riding on board the 30 of John Marshbanks, and something to note, we were watching Blake Reynolds earlier, that 066, and he was making his way up through the field. He's up to 10th, Jack, so I don't know if he's going to quite get that top 8 grid invert, but he's going to be right there. Looks like this is the curse. 18. Well, this isn't Blake. This is Cody Crosgrove. Trevor, you can't blame me on that one. I didn't even say his name.
Well, I think the bearded sim racer may have had something to do with that one. The camera was focused on him hard, so I think that was the driver can feel it, man. That curse is so real. So yeah, let me just cover my eyes real quick here. Give me a second. Here we are following along with Johnson still up front, and you know what, we just talked about this. I mean, what, we're at a little over 2 seconds spread, yeah.
So hang on, because we are on the final lap here on the back straightaway. So Jordan Johnson, all he's got to do is go through turn 17, and he's going to collect his 2nd win of the season. Remember, he won the sprint at Watkins Glen in similar fashion, and The 112 claims another victory. Max Muir is going to cross in the second place position, and then we got to wait 6 seconds till we round out the podium here. Ryan D. O'Connor making a splash here in his first race, rounding out that third place as we get all the rest of the cars crossing the line, Trevor.
Man, but look at Marshbanks coming in at 13th, which this is going to be a solid finish, especially with that invert. You're going to see Jordan jump to the back here on 8th. You're going to see Marshbanks right there. I think we're going to see a race mid-pack right off the start.
I definitely think that things were much, much closer here at Sebring than they were at Watkins Glen. So I think you're right with that top 8 grid invert. It is going to be very, very busy as we watch all of the cars come down the straightaway here. Believe this is Will Chen following Trent McMillan, Rolly Filgaris. Oh no! Looks like Trent McMillan's gonna spin it on the final corner.
Put it in reverse, Trent. Put it in reverse.
There he goes. He's listening to you, Trevor. There we go.
By Trent. Oh, this
man.
is some Ricky Bobby stuff right
Wow.
here.
I was
for
going to
him.
say I was going to give him some extra points if he did the J turn at the end, but I'll take the reverse over the start-finish line as we see the very familiar 112 of Jordan Johnson winning the race. Max Muir in second, Ryan D. O'Connor finishing out our podium. Paul Darling going to finish in fourth, the first of the non-Acuras. Christian Youngwall in fifth. Brandon Hawkins sixth. Cam Bidwell in seventh. Actually, Brandon Hawkins, a very quiet race from him. Blake Reynolds in eighth. Wow, look at that. So he is going to be your pole sitter here for the main. Colin Arnold in ninth, and Pat Pelchat rounds out your top 10, Jack.
In 11th, we have Morgan Burkhardt. In 12th, Eddie Layton. 13th, John Marjoribanks. 14th, Murphy Nichols. In 15th, Robbie Swan. In 16th, James Thurston. In 17th, Ray Kingsbury. 18th, Matt Kingsbury. 19th, Flynn Lazier. And in 20th, Caleb Petrie.
All right, taking up 21st, we got Rolly Falgueras there. 22nd, Will Chen. 23rd, Alex Ellis. 24th, Michael Johnson. 25th, Steven Schirik. 26th, Trent McMillan. Trenton Reverse McMillan. 27th, Eliza Campos. 28th, Chris Walsh. 29th, Milan Harris. And rounding out 30th, Lance Loomis.
And in 31st, we have Jeff Evans, Cody Crosgrove here in 32nd, and I believe that's going to be the cars that finished the sprint race. Charles Hezea, Chris Rosales, Corey Vervinkt, and Hamilton Akabweze did not see the checkered flag. And we do want to thank our partners, especially VRS. VRS is a premium sim racing hardware manufacturer supporting many of the top teams and leagues worldwide. Experience the VRS difference with our hardware, software, telemetry, setups, and training. Podium Esports. Podium Esports LLC is a talent farm for highly motivated individuals looking for a career in motorsports. Podium's mission is and always has been to attract, train, and employ talent in motorsports broadcasting, production, graphic design, journalism, and social media marketing. Podium Esports brings the excitement of competitive gaming to motorsports enthusiasts around the world. We also have Roush Performance, Trevor.
Yeah, guys. No, one thing that I could say that we are obviously always pumped to be involved in this, but we got a lot of great things going on for 2024, guys. Whether you're looking for some performance parts, whether you for your Mustang, F-150, Ranger, Raptor, Super Duty, we have tons of offerings, especially on the 24 side of things. Head over to RoushPerformance.com, click that parts, and if you're looking for a vehicle, guys, F-150s right now has an incentive 1.9% for the next month or so. So check in with your latest, your closest Roush Performance dealer. You can head over to RoushPerformance.com, click that dealer locator, and you can find a ride near you. But a lot of great things going on in our world, and yeah, head over to RoushPerformance.com to check out more.
Now, I always love having you on the show here, Trevor, because you always kind of like to spill the beans on stuff. And speaking of Roush Performance, you know, is there maybe anything that's pretty cool coming out here with Roush Performance in the next couple months that maybe Jack might not fire you over, but you can kind of let out there?
Here, let me look down at Jack. Jack, look at me. Is it okay? No, I'm just kidding. No, we got turn off the camera. No, guys, we have a lot of great things. And just as I said, we just released a lot of 2024 retail performance parts, whether it's for your Mustang exhaust, cold air intake, both the F-150 side, so tons of performance parts. And we're getting ready to launch our 24 F-150, which, guys, it is absolutely beautiful. We're working behind the scenes on the marketing launch of it. We're looking at locations for upcoming shoot. There's a lot of cool features that people are just going to be absolutely blown away. So excited to be able to showcase those. And we're always working on something. I can never say that we're not. There's always something behind the scenes. And I know there's a project that we're working on now that I think everyone's going to be excited to hear about. And if anything wants to be said, I'll let Jack say anything because, yeah, I see what you're doing there, Joe. You're trying to trick me. Smart guy. But I'll let Jack finish up on any of that.
No, it's I think it's pretty good. There's a lot of stuff we would love to talk about tonight, exciting stuff, but I think that's as much as we can say at the moment.
I said too much.
Well, I do think that I know that there's some designs coming out with websites and whatnot, so I have a feeling that if you're watching this broadcast, right, and you like esports, keep your eyes peeled for what Roush Performance is doing in the future, because I just have a feeling that this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg that you see right now. There's still a lot under the water that's to come. So a lot of really cool, exciting stuff. And I'm just happy to be part of the Roush Performance team over here. So thank you guys, and thank you for letting us play here in the virtual world.
Yeah, the experience is only going to get better, guys. And to Joey's point, not only on the esports side, but if you actually head over to RoushPerformance.com, click the experience tab, you can actually go down to events and see what's going on in our world. We're going to be heading out to actually Ponies and the Smokies here coming up. We have tons of off-road events this year. So both for the Mustang and the off-road enthusiasts with your F-150, Ranger, Raptor, bring your Super Duty, heck, Broncos. It's going to be a good time. So head over to there and check out the events.
Now, I know that those Super Duties rip pretty good. I can't remember who is Trevor. I've seen you making lots of videos with them. The golfer that you guys have, doesn't he have one of those Super Duties?
Yeah, Harold Varner III. He's not only a great golfer or a great driver on the golf side of things, he's also a good driver in the other side of it. And he does drive a Roush Super Duty, and he wheels that thing around. But we also have a lot of great people, ambassadors. We have Brantley Gilbert. If you haven't checked out his farm truck, be sure to head over to our social and check it out. That thing is absolutely bad.
Well, the warm-up period is over, and that means we're getting all 36 cars lined up on the grid once again, and we'll read through the top 8 here because we've got a grid invert. Blake Reynolds managed to climb the mountain, finish 8th, so guess what? He starts on your pole position here. Cam Bidwell, LT Gray, going to be starting on the outside of row number 1. Brandon Hawken in 3rd, Christian Youngwall here in 4th, Paul Darling in 5th, Ryan D. O'Connor in 6th, Max Muir in 7th, and Jordan Johnson in 8th. We'll scan through the rest of the names here on the screen, but nothing has changed from their finishing result in the sprint to where they are starting here in this main feature race. And here we go. This is the grid for you as we get scanned through, get this nice long pace lap at Sebring under our belt. And Trevor, I actually want to bring you back in here because as kind of being the voice of Roush Performance, you get to announce a lot of these really cool prizes. And we talked about it at the beginning of the show. This is the largest prize pool that's ever been offered by Roush Performance Esports.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I actually remember when we started talking about it, and I don't know who threw it out at $2,000 cash, but we decided to go with it thanks to obviously all of our partners in this. But first place is taking home the bag. I think that's what the kids say these days. $250 VRS gift certificate. Second's taking home $500, third $350, fourth $200, and fifth place is taking home a Benjamin. Also race prizes feature win the VRS certificate, and that's going to be for first, second, and third. Which I don't know. I think what we should really do is give that VRS to the people finishing, maybe more towards the bottom. But hey, we'll figure something out there. Hey, if you don't win anything tonight and you want to feel like a winner, head over to RoushGear.com and check out our latest gear. You will absolutely feel like a winner in our latest gear. It looks great.
And don't forget, we also have some trophies for the top 3 finishers of the championship as well. We'll have to share some pictures of those soon as show you guys those. I think you'll like them.
Yeah, it looks like Jordan's already showing off his in the background there. Trenton, I see about half of Trenton here and sideways. Turn your head sideways here a little bit. You can get a better shot of him. But hey, pretty cool. Trenton finishing 26th and threw it in reverse. I love it. Well, we might have to change it from throw in reverse Terry to Trenton.
While we're coming through 15 and 16 and just have the straightaway here, Jack, I want to pick your brain a little bit. Is there maybe like one corner at Sebring or one memory that you're very fond of?
I honestly, how many times have I raced here? I'm just trying to think. It hasn't been that many, but I really love this track. I think that there's a lot of really tough turns. Like Trevor, I appreciate the comment you made earlier about the drive when we went around the track. Turn 1 is it's like an optical illusion. It should be way faster than it ever seems like it should be. And it seems like every turn here has some type of illusion, whether it's going faster or you're out in the middle of nowhere and there's a quick line, but it's really tough to find it until you spend time to learn where it is. Some turns are much slower, the entry angles are weird and you can't anticipate it. But yeah, I think the first and last corners are some of my favorites just because they're so difficult to nail.
We're going to see if the drivers can manage it as they get on the gas here for the 35-minute main feature race. They widen out through turn 1, and there's one car spinning off into the barriers. I believe it is still Blake Reynolds in your lead through 3, 4, and 5. Brandon Hawkins slips his way into second. Cameron Bidwell there in third place. Christian Youngwall in fourth, and Paul Darling, he's your 5th place Cadillac, making the sprint here to turn 7, Trevor.
Man, and already seeing this with Jordan taking up 2 spots immediately. This is someone that you want to keep in traffic as long as possible. But even following that, looks like Elson a little bit in trouble there. But man, keep him heavy through the traffic, and hopefully Blake can hold on up top there. Oh, more trouble. Hawkins off the track.
Well, and that is huge because remember, Brandon Hawkins was your points leader coming in here, and it also seems like Alex Ellis can just not catch a break here. So lots of chaos going on turn, or I should say lap number 1 here at Sebring. Looks like it's Blake Reynolds, Cam Bidwell, Christian Youngwall still your top 3 as they go through turns 15 and 16 here. You got to make sure to get the gas down, get accelerated out onto the Ullman straightaway here. It's just so fast through Sebring, no matter which turn. And I believe that's Jordan Johnson making a move down to the inside of Paul Darling here into turn number 17. So Jordan Johnson, that 112, definitely already climbing that hill, trying to make his way back towards the front of the race, Jack.
Oh, yeah. And interesting point that you made during the sprint race is, what are these drivers thinking? It's a 15-minute race. You don't have much time to do anything. This race is much longer, being a 35-minute round. So, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of patience so far, but really, these guys need to settle down, find their pace, try to pick off some drivers. Oh, man.
Oh.
That was the replay of the start there. I believe that was the 19 car. And it's chaotic. Yeah, Jack, you know how fast turn 1 is, especially on cold tires.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And especially, man, with that many cars going into that turn, it's not surprising to see this type of chaos.
Man, and seeing what happened to Hawkins there, that was like a hard lockup. It just looks like his car came right around on that. I didn't even see contact.
So what that was is these GTP cars have brake-by-wire systems, especially in the rear end of the cars. And when you got cold tires, it can be a little bit tricky. Just combine that with the full fuel load that you haven't been used to, and everybody racing around with draft as we see more cars just get all of these replays of really everybody just overshooting the brake zone. And there's so many variables going on here in the main feature race that you haven't dealt with yet, right? In qualifying, you pretty much are on empty tanks, no weight whatsoever. In the sprint race, you're on minimum fuel. And then all of a sudden, here to start the feature race, you've been hot dogging it around the racetrack the whole time, and all of a sudden you have a ton more fuel weight on board, and you don't have any temperature in the tires. Jack, you know what all those variables are like, but you do have to pay attention to all of them.
Oh, absolutely. It's a tough thing. You know, if you overcook it, you know, you just think it's, you know, you're going to be able to stop a little bit better, and you find yourself, you know, too late. You know, it's a tough situation because you want to jam on the brakes, which makes it tougher to turn in a lot of cases. Sometimes it can even make the car want to spin out depending on what your brake bias is, but it can be very tough to correct. And I find it harder to correct in that type of situation in the sim world over the real world because, again, being a real world racer, you know, like my body wants to feel the rotation, feel the inertia. And without that, you know, I do think it's tougher to correct.
Watching Jordan Johnson, and to touch on that point that you were just making, I totally agree with you. Coming from the real world, I think what everybody talks about is you've got no feel, but that really is what our career is based off of. Is you put your butt in the seat, you strap into it, and you essentially, you get paid to tell what the car is doing. And if you provide the right feedback, well, guess what? Your engineers, your team make the car faster, and everything gets easier out there. But it is all up to that experience level and being comfortable in the racing seat. And watching Blake Reynolds right now just kind of set sail. This is exactly what he wanted to do, is make up all of that ground in the sprint race so he has clean air in front of him. 3 seconds back to Cam Bidwell, but he is actually already being passed by Jordan Johnson. So once again, deja vu setting in. If you're a fan of the Matrix, you've probably been seeing a lot of these black cats wandering by. It's going to be another standoff between Reynolds and Johnson at the end of this one.
Man, and only with a, almost 3-second gap here. I can tell you, I know Johnson's driving style. We've already seen his lap times from last race. You could see this 3 seconds get pulled off pretty quick here. I mean, there's still extremely talented drivers behind there. I mean, you got Cameron Bidwell, Max, Christian, Paul Darling just following up right behind Jordan here. So anything can absolutely happen.
As we get some of the shots here of these cars a little bit further back in the field, starting with Matt Kingsbury in the 15th place position. I see about 6 or 7 cars lined up, all chasing each other. That includes Chris Walsh, Cody Crosgrove, Eddie Layton, James Thurston, and Milan Harris, all the way back to what is the 20th place position. So working lap number 4, a lot of these cars staying really close together, and that's kind of the nature of Sebring. I feel like, Jack, especially when we compare it to Watkins Glen, it's a totally different type of racetrack, not only because of the bumps, but just the speeds are very different here too.
Oh yeah, you know, something I was curious about is how these cars are gonna, you know, draft each other at a track like this. You know, there's the backstretch followed by, you know, this current turn we're showing right now, followed by this front stretch. The draft can be a factor here, especially in the backstretch more than the front stretch. But it's, yeah, it's. I personally, I don't know how this is going to shake out, what type of factor that'll have. You know, I'm trying to think, you know, being observer here, will these cars be at an advantage to be close together to catch up to cars in front, or will that slow them down? I think here, with Reynolds out front, I think he's going to be pretty tough to catch, although Johnson is making a lot of headway. What is he, Oh, no, those are times, fast speeds. Okay, 4/10. Wow. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Make some popcorn.
I feel that he's got plenty of pace to catch the car. But if we remember just a week ago, let's set the scene, all right? Blake Reynolds, he led pretty much every single lap of our 35-minute main feature at Watkins Glen until the last few laps where he really had to fend off both Brandon Hawken and Jordan Johnson. Well, there was some contact in the bus stop in the inner loop between Blake and Jordan, which ended up giving Blake that no qualifying here, but he has done a tremendous job. So like I said, if you've seen a black cat go across the screen, trust me, it is happening again. It will be Blake versus Jordan when it comes down to it. And this is actually Paul Darling in our Rumbly Boy Cadillac here, sitting in 6th place, trying to stalk the Tiger in the grass. That is Cam Bidwell right in front of him here. And Trevor, I want to bring you in here. Cam Bidwell, he started on the front row thanks to that grid invert. He's just kind of hanging on right now.
No, I think he's hanging on well. He's Cam's a solid driver. What do you call him? You call him
LT Gray.
LT Gray. But no, Cam's always you're almost guaranteed to see him either on the podium or just outside of it. But having a talented person up there like this, I think it plays a pivotal role actually in racing. I think with when you're obviously operating around that podium spot, I just think it's a good place for him.
We're watching Alex Ellis here creep up on Murphy Nichols going down into turn number 7. Looks like both of them get the car stopped. Murphy is actually going to be able to put the power down, so we're looking at a drag race towards turn number 10. Alex Ellis is on driver's right. He does have the track position, so all he's got to do is pretty much hang Murphy out around the outside, and Alex Ellis will move up into that 10th place position. And to talk about this number 5 a little bit, looks like he's actually going to drag along Brandon Hawken as Brandon looks to the inside, trying to squeeze his way in, has a little bit of contact. Quarter spin, but ends up saving it right there. But I was going to mention Alex Ellis has not necessarily had the best of luck at Watkins Glen. I know that he got some car damage off of one of the starts, and then here at the sprint, turn 17 had a couple issues, and then turn 7 on the opening lap of the main. So I know that Alex is one of the fastest drivers on iRacing, but unfortunately just not showing as well as he really can race out here in the Roush Performance Pro Series. As we check back in, that 4/10 that Jordan Johnson was chipping away per lap, well, Jack, it is now down to 1.5 seconds. He's taken nearly 2 seconds out of that gap.
Yeah, it's they're definitely going to be battling here. The question is when. I don't think it's going to be long.
I don't think so either, but it just begs to question, are we going to see more of what we saw last week, that catching and passing are two different things? At Watkins Glen, it is so difficult to make a pass. The brake zone really in turn 1 is pretty short. The brake zone into the inner loop or the bus stop or whatever you want to call it up there at the top of the hill is even shorter. So kind of a defensive mastermind's playground when you go to Watkins Glen. Here at Sebring, you've got turn 1, great passing opportunity. Turn 7, great passing opportunity. You get down to turn 10, another good one. You can slip down the inside of the tower turn here at 13. You can also go down the inside of turn 17. So I just rattled off a handful of names or turn numbers that you can kind of make moves here at Sebring. Compare that to Watkins Glen, totally different style of racetrack to attack, and I think we're about to see it all unfold here, Jack. It's now down to 1 second between the two.
Yeah, and you know, something that's going through my mind watching this battle is with all the battles here, you know, again, you know, just trying to describe the difference between the real world and the sim world. You know, in the real world, you know, coming up behind someone, you want to stalk them, try to be in places they don't expect, even if you're not going to make a pass. It's very much like that in the sim world too, because the driver in front, as all the drivers have mirrors. One of the challenges I found in sim racing is that you got to be really careful in your focus. You know, like when people start to put pressure on you, it's very hard to track them while also feeling what your car is doing. And like we just talked about, you don't have your body, you know, sensing inertia to feel that. And I think in some ways, it can be easier to pressure people in the sim world.
I think so. Well, and to talk about that pressure, right? It's funny. You strap me into a race car, you put me on pre-grid or in the trailer, wherever, right? As long as I'm in the car, I'm comfy. I can take a nap at that point. However, when I'm sitting in my sim rig, it is the complete opposite. And I don't know if it's because I'm venturing into the unknown in the virtual world. It's just always chaotic out there, while in the real world, I feel much more kind of in control of my own destiny. But here's what we're talking about, Jack. That pressure that you can apply, well, it's gone from a second to now 2 car lengths, and Jordan Johnson's going to have a good tow.
And not only that, though, Joe, is we're also potentially going to see lap traffic here. And we talk about a certain part of this racetrack getting tight. Unfortunately, we have Eddie coming up here. You're going to have the lap leaders, and that gap could quickly change if one guy gets around this lap traffic before the other.
And I just don't see the pace from Blake Reynolds being able to hold off Jordan Johnson here at Sebring. I mentioned the differences between the tracks earlier and really think it played into Blake's hands, but we're about to see it play out. 20 minutes remaining here at the Pro Series, and the fight is on for the lead. And if you see a third car just kind of lurking right there, well, that is Max Muir. He is your third place car, so if we get any scrap between the top 2, trust me, Max will be right there.
And I feel like Max, and as I was kind of talking about Cameron being like a pivotal point of the race, is those guys are talented enough to hold pressure to the leaders. And Max is clearly doing that in that spot, and is actually a lap, or this last lap, he was actually faster than the 2 leaders here.
He was definitely, you know, and I'm going to argue with you guys a little bit because, you know, when you argue about fast, 300ths is tough to compare out there on the racetrack. 143.88, 143.85 between the 2 of them. And so I have a feeling that, yes, you're right, Trevor, definitely the fastest car on the racetrack. And now that Jordan is actually being held up a little bit, Jordan's lap time is suffering. He's about 3 or 4 tenths slower. That has just brought Max in even closer. Jack, tell me what you think. When you're this third place car, are you waiting for the move to be made, kind of the door to open, or do you want to create your own destiny and go race it out yourself?
You know, I think the clock tells part of that story. There's still some time here. You know, if I was Muir, I'd want to get kind of close, but I wouldn't. You know, like I would want to be careful too. If these 2 cars get tangled up, I'd want to make sure that I'm carrying as much speed as possible to make a run on them.
So let's talk about some other factors that Jordan Johnson, the second place car, is dealing with here, chasing our leader. He's got to deal with the dirty air, and you see all of these huge aero packages on these GTP cars. They've got aggressive splitters, rear wings, canards, all sorts of diffusers, everything to really take advantage of the air. And when you're traveling at a good clip, well, it kicks up dirty wake behind you. If y'all are familiar with a boat, remember, back behind the boat, it creates a wake. Well, the same thing happens with a car. It creates a wake of air behind it. Well, this second place car, the third place car, it's got to drive through that dirty air. And guess what? Your car, it doesn't work as good in that dirty air. You actually have to kind of more drive at 11 tenths, or Jack, you well know, find the clean air.
Oh, absolutely. And that can be sticking half a nose out, you know, just a little bit, you know, can make a big difference. I think it's going to be very tough for Reynolds to hold Johnson back. And this is the prime opportunity that I see, you know, the cleanest opportunity for a pass on this back straight. If Johnson can get close enough to get a run, get a little bit of a draft, pop over and get the inside of the last turn, I think that's going to be his way to pass here.
Well, and I think you saw just the first moment of posturing right there. The 112 looked down the inside, and Blake was very quick to cover that off. So you see a couple of these cars dash by the screen right in front of us. Trevor, you were talking about that lapped traffic. It shouldn't play a factor, but it is always something you have to wonder about, right? When you are Blake Reynolds, you see it on the horizon. You not only have to deal with this incredible pressure behind from the 112, but you also have to navigate that lap traffic, and it is a lot to handle.
Yeah, and that's just it. You don't know at what point of the track am I going to come in contact with this guy. Now, not only am I looking ahead, as he's had clean air this entire time, now he's looking ahead, he's looking behind him, there's pressures from all over, and Joey, you talked about it earlier, it's too funny. I don't know why when you get into a sim rig, the anxiety, the excitement is just through the roof here. Heck, and I can almost say the same. You put me in an actual car, maybe not a race car, but even just an everyday car, driving fast. Not so fast, but anyways, you don't feel that anxiety, but heck, you get on here and it's a whole nother level of emotions. And guys, if you haven't tried iRacing, you have to try it. And it's a awesome opportunity to just get behind the wheel and really fill out these tracks.
Well, and thank you for finishing my point. I know my ADD brain kind of goes off on random topics, and you're right, just the anxiety in the virtual world, it's crazy compared to a real-life race car. And here we go. Blake Reynolds focused down the back straightaway here. He's got the number 112 right in tow, and you gotta wonder, this is an open setup series, right? So each of these drivers, they custom tune these setups to how they need them to perform on the racetrack, and downforce levels are always important on iRacing. It basically dictates the top speed that you have down the straightaways, and I have a feeling what Blake Reynolds might have done to his car, knowing that he can't qualify. I wonder if he trimmed it out just that little bit that provides him that extra top speed down the straightaways. And I kind of think of that as maybe a little bit of a stiff arm, right? You can stiff arm the competitors away down the straightaway, not provide them that opportunity to make the lunge in the brake zone.
Yeah, and I think, Joey, curious what your thoughts were, but I think that was one difference in the last race. I think Blake had a little bit more downforce, probably a little less straight line speed than Johnson, but better slower mid-corner speed due to higher downforce. You know, that seems to be changed for this race. And I actually think that may have been a contributing factor to Johnson and Reynolds' contact in that last race.
Well, and it makes sense, too, the way that Blake was able to pass all of the cars in the sprint race. The easiest way to pass a car is on a straightaway, right? You drive right on by him. So if he's got that thing trimmed out, it's probably his best bet, right? He's got to make sure to get the power down out of 16 and then really get the launch on the straightaway. But I have a feeling this is actually much closer than Jordan Johnson has been the previous 2 laps. He's going to be close enough to make a move here into turn 17. He doesn't show the nose, so maybe the 066 of Blake Reynolds does have that thing trimmed out, and Jordan is going to have to play chess rather than muscle his way through here, Trevor.
You know, one thing, actually, I want to extend an apology to Eddie Layton. I've been watching this track map here, and I'm just kind of waiting on the lap traffic, and it's not coming. And I'm looking at his times, and he is extremely quick, and he would belong at the front here if he got a good start here. But I'm keep anticipating, oh, it's gonna be the next corner, oh, it's gonna be the next corner. But heck, Eddie, he is just sticking it out there, and that gap has almost essentially stayed the same all race.
Well, since we are well past halfway here, and I know that we've covered the top 3 a lot, I do want to make sure that we get everybody on the screen. So we're going to keep, as my buddy Joe Peak likes to say, half an eye on this lead battle. And actually, here we go. Jordan Johnson makes a lunge down the inside of turn number 10. But nice, respectful racing, room given from Blake Reynolds. And here comes another lunge down the inside of the tower turn. That's going to open the door for Max Muir. He's going to try to over-under, try to take away this second-place position. And Max is actually in a really good spot here. Heading up, can he outbreak the 112 side-by-side through turn 15? And now just a short break of 16. They stay side-by-side. It's a drag race. I think the 112 will hang on to second, but holy smokes, Blake Reynolds saying thank you very much. I've got 1.3 seconds now.
I think Johnson had to make those moves, though. I think Reynolds was getting a little bit comfortable. He didn't feel like Johnson was going to make a move. And so he really was not moving in response to Johnson's, diving down on the inside or anything. But Johnson will need that to compromise Reynolds' turns and ultimately runs down the straights.
Well, I mentioned it. We're going to give a quick run through the field here. Make sure we try to say everybody's name. Make sure we get these beautiful paints on the screen as Paul Darling is holding off Flynn Lazier. If that Lazier name sounds familiar, yes, very important in motorsports history, especially in open wheelers. So not only Flynn's dad very successful, but Flynn a very successful real-world racer himself. So go follow Flynn Lazier as we roll through 7th place here. Ryan D. O'Connor in this Acura. Then got this nice blue and black precision racing esports theme, that PRL series. Always a fun place to go and race. And then this brings us El Tigre, Cam Bidwell, who's currently holding off Alex Ellis in his Acura, Brandon Hawkin right behind him. And remember, Brandon Hawkin, that number 99 right behind this number 5 here, is your points leader coming into today. So after a couple little extracurricular activities on track, he is kind of working his way back through the field. And then Trevor, that brings us up to 11th, right behind Brandon of the number 25 car.
There we are. We got Kingsbury. What are they, brothers out here? I've seen 2 Kingsburys out here. All right, we got the brothers out here rocking the Acura. Currently 11th place. This thing is looking pretty good here. I remember this car from last race. Here, Porsche, thank you, Bearded Sim Racer. I know that you were like, hey, I'm going to give Trevor the Porsche. Colin Arnold with this old school Porsche livery. I love it. I'm so simple. Like, this is the car that I would be driving. So good choice there, Colin. What else we got out here on the track? There's Josh Marshbanks, right, Joey?
Correct.
I
yes.
tried to oversay your name, John, and I'm so sorry. But rocking this Acura, currently in 13th place. Nice little thing here. Now we're going. I'm digging this. Chris Walsh. Oh, and the Carolina boy, represent. I'm loving that. It's that matte black, got the American flag on the side. Roush Performance, American flag coming across the center. I am digging that car. USA. There you go. Love it. What else we got here? Murphy Nichols rocking the Acura, the 20 car, currently 15th place. This is, I feel like, the very safe approach to Acura. This says Acura to me, except they need a Castrol oil and not the other one. Sorry, Murphy. Lance Loomis. Let's see what we got here. The 66 car, currently 16th. I'm digging this blue. This blue is looks nice on the track. Milan Harris. There's a caddy, currently 17th place. You guys were talking about the different vehicles and such. I'm Acura definitely holding on to this. Caddy and Porsche, we need to step it up a little bit here. There's the Porsche. There's the other brother, Matt Kingsbury from New England. Will Chen, there's a caddy, 20th place.
Buddy from
nice
RFK Racing right there.
Oh, there, yeah, Will Chen rocking the RFK there on the spoiler. Clean looking car. Oh, and the Castrol. Oh, and the Fastenal. There you go. That is the car that we need on the cover. Look at that, Will.
Correct, I believe Will is an engineer for RFK Racing.
Okay. He's also a good graphic designer. I was digging that car. Blake Reynolds here.
Well, as we still have a few more cars on track, we need to take a break because look at what has happened up front. Blake Reynolds now has company again in the form of the 112. He is caught back up to him. Max Muir just a touch behind Jordan, so I have a feeling that Jordan probably wants to lay the pressure on to Reynolds quicker, right? Sooner than later out here, because the longer he waits, the more he's going to have to deal with that number 11 that's just kind of lurking in the mirrors. I kind of consider it like he's kind of waiting at the buffet table. He's just waiting for everything to open up, and then all of a sudden he's going to sneak in there and steal all of the prime rib.
No, I see this as like the last piece of dessert. Like, he knows he's the table closest to the buffet line. He's just waiting on the right moment. he's going in for the cheesecake.
Jack, are you going for the prime rib or the cheesecake?
I like cheesecake.
Yeah.
If memory serves correct, I know that we're always big hibachi fans on the road.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Hibachi is always good. Get yourself some fried rice and some steak and some sushi if you need to. And whenever you're traveling racing, that is always a good protein meal. As we watch 7 minutes now remaining here in the main feature race, and it is still Jordan trying to find his way around Blake. And well, I always ask Jack his personal expertise and how he would approach these situations. Trevor, I want to hear what you have to say here. How would you get around Blake Reynolds if you're Jordan Johnson and have just kind of been stuck here?
Yeah, so this is called Amateur Hour Talk with Trevor. Honestly, guys, I'm an aggressive driver, okay? I'm going to be really honest with you. I'm late braking, I'm bumping him to the outside, and I'm taking the inside for the win. That's what I'm doing. And Jack, if I caught Jack on the track go-karting, I would do that to him, but I could never catch him, so never got the opportunity. But yeah, that's what I would do. I mean, you're asking honestly, Joey. You guys have the perspective from real-world racing. I'm over here just bump and run. That's why JP, I think, stopped taking racing advice from me a long time ago.
Oh, goodness.
Right.
Well, you know, we got the double zero on screen here. And Jack, maybe you can briefly tell everybody who Rolly is.
So Rolly's a good friend of mine personally, of my family, and other people within our company. I'm sure he's a good friend of yours too, Joey. He's been around forever. He's been racing, like I mentioned earlier, on my dad's road racing program back in the 80s. In the early 2000s and 2010s, he drove on my road racing team. He has a great family. They own Fajardo Ford, and when there was a point when we were running our program, Joey, I think you were a part of it then, and I didn't know who Rolly was, and I find out, you know, this guy wants to be part of our road racing team, and I find out, you know, we get to meet him. He's super competitive. But he's also just a very friendly guy, just awesome person.
If memory serves me correct, Rolly brought along Brian Ortiz back in the day. Now, if Brian Ortiz sounds familiar, he's done a lot of MX-5 Cup racing, and here we go, a pass once again down the turn 10, down the inside, got contact, door banging between the GTPs, and once again, Blake Reynolds is able to hold off Jordan Johnson in that charge, that attempt for the lead. And I gotta say, that was a great lunge down the inside of turn 10 and a great defense from the 066, but it is far from over. Here we go, 15 and 16, 4 minutes remaining, Jack.
Yeah, I think Johnson needs to be right there, right on Reynolds' tail to be able to make a move. Right now, let's see if he's gonna get a draft and pull out. Oh, Reynolds goes for the inside, trying to save it, but maybe Johnson can do an over-under.
Yeah, Go ahead.
This is some great racing here. I love the fact that these guys are not trying to create contact. They're racing each other super hard. You know, mentally they're both super strong. You know, they're not giving an inch, whether predator or prey here. It's just really cool.
Oh, and now we got contact between the top three. That was Max Muir getting into the back of Jordan Johnson. Almost pushed him and took out the entire top three. If you guys watched Sebring 12 Hour in 2023, it looked eerily familiar to the end of that race with the prototypes going bounding over the curbs here at turn number 3. So watch the third car in line get in deep. It's going to make contact with second place, and then thankfully Blake Reynolds, very heads up, left plenty of room at the apex, just like we've seen him as he's been battling with Jordan. But once again, deja vu, right? You see the black cat running across the screen. Well, Jordan Johnson kind of got moved out of the way at the end of Watkins Glen. I consider that all fair and clean in terms of Blake Reynolds' point of view, but once again, shuffled out of the way for somebody else to try to fight Blake Reynolds now.
Man, that's just Max's way of saying, hey, let me get at Reynolds here. Yes, it was an aggressive move, but Max is pacing quick here. So I also see Max having a chance at running down Reynolds here. Yeah, I hate it for Johnson, but he just wants a piece of the pie here.
Yeah, it's not clear to me without looking at that closer if there was some fault there or if the cars got bunched up. It's if there's a protest, then we'll have to really look at that really closely. And man, can you believe it? There's less than 2 minutes left. I thought for sure Reynolds was going to have a very hard time holding Johnson off, but man, I don't see any way Johnson can make this up at this point unless these two leaders create some contact and get into trouble.
Oh, Peachy Campos right in the middle of the track, definitely blocking the leader, all sorts of stuff, and then Blake Reynolds getting hugely checked up. This is going to be an opportunity for Max Muir to go around the outside of turn number 7 on the last lap here at Sebring. Oh, big time lockup from Reynolds. Can he get the car slowed down? No! Max Muir to the lead.
Wow, this is some excitement here. And that's what I'm saying, guys. I think Max is not someone that you want up front here in this situation. He's going to drive hard, he's going to drive aggressive, and he's going to go for the win here.
Oh my goodness, and I feel like one of the fastest cars that's been on the racetrack now has clean air. Blake Reynolds definitely kind of got dealt a wild card with that lap traffic just right smack in the middle of the track, not letting him by. And then here we've got the number 11. However, remember, Blake has that top end speed. Can he get the run out of turn 16 here to try to make a pass? And actually, look at this really nice exit. So it's all going to be the serpentine from Muir down the straightaway. Can he stay far enough in front of the 066? Certainly looks like he's got him covered. A late Hail Mary from the 066 gets to the inside. Muir getting loose off the corner exit. It's a drag race. Max Muir going to hang on for the win.
Wow.
Max, what a finish there.
That was almost as close as the NASCAR race we just saw.
Oh,
that was
goodness.
A turn 4 Daytona finish right there. That was bumper to bumper, almost a photo finish. Wow, Max with the push back in there.
I think that was probably one of our best finishes that we've ever seen in Roush Esports.
Between that and Trent McMillan's reverse, I'd agree.
It's a highlight night, isn't it?
It sure is. Man, let's watch that coming across the stripe, these guys. Look at that wide into the corner there. Look at sliding around, holding on to it. That is a puckering moment right there.
I really thought Max had lost it at that point, really squirming for traction, but somehow, probably very reminiscent of what Travis Pastrana does, pin it to win it. And that's exactly what Max Muir did, winning by, just 3/100ths of a second at the line.
And Barney, look at Barney. He's still waving. Attaboy, Barney.
Well, what we're going to do is take a really fast break, and we will be right back with your official results and any post-race interviews.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the Roush Performance Esports Network. We just watched Sebring round 2 of the Pro Series, and none of it would be possible without our partners to thank. RFK Racing. Make sure to go follow along with team owner and driver, the number 6 car Brad Keselowski, and the number 17 driver Chris Buescher, as they race their way through the NASCAR season. They just had Atlanta. Chris had a nice, solid showing there, despite some tough racing, and they're on their way out west to Vegas right now, actually. And VRS. VRS is a premium sim racing hardware manufacturer supporting many of the top teams and leagues worldwide. Experience the VRS difference with our hardware, software, telemetry setups, and training. Podium Esports. Podium's mission is and always has been to attract, train, and employ talent in motorsports broadcasting, production, graphic design, journalism, and social media marketing. Podium Esports brings the excitement of competitive gaming to motorsports enthusiasts around the world. And Trevor, probably the most important last one here, Roush Performance.
Heck yeah. If you guys are looking to add a little bit more performance to your life, there's 2 routes here, guys. If you own a Mustang, F-150, Bronco, Ranger, Super Duty, we have the retail performance parts side of this. So you can head over to RoushPerformance.com, click parts, shop around, check it out. Or if you're looking for the ultimate adrenaline rush here, check out a RoushPerformance.com, click dealer locator for a dealer near you. Especially with the incentives going on from Ford, 1.9% on the current F-150. So you guys want to check that out, find a dealer near you.
Well, we've got our official results on the screen here. It is going to be Max Muir taking the victory. Look at that, 34 thousandths ahead of that 0.66 of Blake Reynolds. Jordan Johnson finishing in the 3rd place position. Paul Darling in 4th. Christian Youngwall rounding out your top 5. Flynn Lazier in 6th. Alex Ellis, another tough day for Alex out there, finishes 7th. Ryan D. O'Connor in 8th. Cam Bidwell, LT Gray comes home with the top 10 in 9th. And Ray Kingsbury back here in 10th. Jack?
In 11th, finished Brandon Hawken. In 12th, Colin Arnold. Chris Walsh in 13th. John M. in 14th. Lance Loomis in 15th, Mylan Harris in 16th, Charles Hosea in 17th, Murphy Nichols in 18th, Matt Kingsbury in 19th, Will Chen in 20th, Trevor.
Taking on the 21st spot, Rolly here. 22nd, Michael Johnson. 23rd, Eliza Campos. 24th, Eddie Layton. 25th, Cody Cosgrove. 26th position, Steven Sherrick. Trent McMillian taking up 27th. Caleb Petrie, 28th. 29th, Jeff Evans. And 30th, Chris Rosales.
We have a few more back here. Unfortunately, nobody on this screen finished today's race, but thank you for coming out and participating. James Thurston, Robbie Swan, Morgan Burkhardt, Pat Pelchet, Corey Vervinkt, and Hamilton Akabueze. Well, we do have our official podium finishers, and we're going to start with Max Muir. You had an eventful Watkins Glen starting way from the back. You qualified here at Sebring, got 2 great results, and claimed the checkered flag in the main feature. How does it feel?
I'm still trying to calm down, actually. It was just an intense race. We hardly had any prep time from the satellite team. Like, we only had like 2 hours to build a setup, and we didn't quite have the raw pace of Jordan, for example, but you know, luck with the lap traffic and whatnot helped us out, and we were able to get it by the line. But that was tight.
Well, I call that racecraft, right? You were sitting in a position and you took advantage of it. And since you did say that you might not have had the fastest race car, at what point did you feel you actually had a shot at winning this thing?
I just knew that if I stayed behind in around a second or so, I could pounce if they had any incidents up ahead, and it seemed to work out in my favor, at least with Jordan and stuff. I felt like he may have moved a bit under braking, but I'm sure he'll argue something else. But yeah.
Well, Max, I know that you're looking forward to the last couple tracks, especially Atlanta down there being a Southeast kid. But before we get to those 2 rounds, is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to that helps you get it done on the racetrack?
Of course, everyone down at Satellite and our sponsors, Dr. Dabber, Nemesis Lab, Ellis Engineering, and Moradness. And of course, the racing gods for that luck that I got at the end there. Yeah.
I totally get that one. You always have to thank them because they are watching. And trust me, if you don't thank them, they will smush you out there. So
oh, yeah, I know that.
That was Max Muir, driver of the number 11 out there claiming the victory. And Jack, I believe that you've caught up with our 2nd place finisher and are standing by with Blake Reynolds.
Hey, Blake. Great job out there. How's your race?
Crazy. Very, very crazy. I unfortunately accrued a qualifying penalty, so I was not allowed to qualify because I was a bad boy last week. Now, tonight, I was a good boy. No moving under the braking, no my cornering anybody. I was very good in the sprint race. I got up to, they crashed in front of me for the final invert spot, P8, and I just took it, and I'm like, okay, I'm on pole. So I was on pole, and then I pretty much did the same strategy I did last week. Just defend, focus on corner exit, keep them in my dirty air. I had that gap at the start of the feature race to Jordan and Max, but those guys just had superior downforce to me. We didn't get a lot of work on the set. Ray Kingsbury and Plim Lazier and the guys at Penguin RC were helping me out this week. Yeah, I mean, just crazy race. Awesome battle with Jordan and Max. Unfortunately, that lap car, I don't know who that was. I'm trying not to be too mad about it. You know, P2 is still P2, right? So, yeah, good points day. Yeah, P2. How about it?
Yeah, it was an awesome race. We were watching with excitement. It was awesome how you made your way up to 8th, and then we saw that field inverse. And man, we knew it was going to be exciting, and it was. You did not disappoint. I know the race didn't finish how you wanted, but great job out there. Very impressive stuff, and thanks for being part of this. Are there any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Of course, don't we all? Nitro Circus Sim Racing, my beautiful paint scheme by Jonathan Oates. Next Level Racing, Penguin RC Simulation. You guys for putting this on. I mean, just an awesome race, awesome league so far. I'm really enjoying my time. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Blake.
That was Blake Reynolds, driver of the 066, claiming that 2nd place position. And then we have our final podium finisher, Jordan Johnson, standing by with Trevor Wright.
Yeah, hanging out here with Jordan Johnson. Jordan Johnson, you're like the Tom Brady of the racetrack, and I'll tell you why. You always have a target on your back. You know, everyone wants to beat the best, and I think when people get around you, they race you hard. Unfortunately, you got into a little bit there on the last lap. Why don't you walk us through that? What was going on?
Yeah, I mean, I seem to have a theme of getting taken out on the second to last lap fighting for the lead, right? It seems to be a very weird coincidence so far, but it is what it is. I think really just end of the day, I went for a gap trying to catch Blake out. And I think Max did the same thing at the same time. I can't really blame him for filling that gap. I went to go do it at the same time, and it was just 2 into 1 doesn't fit. And Blake never was going to see that coming, so there's just no space, and it was just quite unfortunate. I really think, admittedly, it was kind of faultless. Maybe could have been a little bit safer, but we all wanted to go for that win.
Oh, absolutely. No, last lap like that, or second to last, it's something that you guys are all racing hard. But hey, 3rd spot finish on the podium is a great finish, and you're just wicked fast out there. So we're excited to see you in the next events. But why don't you take us out with any partners you'd like to thank?
Yeah, of course, Apex Racing Academy. I've been with them for the past 3 months. They've been a massive help for me. Of course, all of our partners and so on, SDK Gaming, Computers PC Systems, VRS, and so on. They've just been a massive help in helping me progress as a driver. I found myself being able to step up to a completely different level from what I thought was even possible, and it's only been 3 months, so can't wait to race a little bit more with them in the rest of the series as well.
Absolutely. We look forward to it as well. Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you.
That was your podium here at Sebring, and we tackled the bumpy Sebring. We're going to have a week off, but in 2 weeks we will see Virginia International Raceway, one of my personal favorite tracks and is just nestled right there in the Virginia countryside. The one nice thing about the virtual VIR is that you don't deal with the 95-degree ambient temperature and the 3,000% humidity that's usually out there. So it'll be nice here when we visit the Pro Series in a couple weeks at VIR, and actually want to get everybody back on camera here. So we're halfway through the Pro Series, and Jack, let's talk to you first. What have you thought about the first two events?
Joey, and Trevor, we've been doing this a long time. We've been playing with different racing formats, and from racing the GT, the Ford GT on the tracks during those first invitational events during the pandemic. We did mini series, then we did the World Tour. We've done stock cars, rally, all kinds of stuff. I gotta say, this is pretty cool. We haven't done a Pro Series before. We haven't done cash prizes. We got a lot of great talent. The racing is incredible. Man, I'm having a blast. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, these cars, they just hook up just right. Oh, did you fall off camera there?
No,
I
was
good.
just talking, and then all of a sudden, you were just kind of interrupting me over here.
Sorry, here. Yeah, my bad.
Guys, get along.
High five. Can you high five me?
Good.
There you go.
No, Trevor, I mean, you always are with us here on the esports events, and just like Jack was saying, the Pro Series is a totally different atmosphere, but this racing has been top-notch.
It's extremely aggressive. These cars are just made out to run these tight lines, and that's what's exciting. Like, these cars can fall off a few seconds, be right back in the race the next corner. So I think that this racing is probably going to be one of the most exciting that we've seen. I personally have loved the trucks, but seeing like finishes like this, I'm hoping we see more, and especially at VIR, that's going to make for some really competitive racing.
34 one-thousandths of a second is the difference at the line that decided the winner here at race number 2. Thanks to Roush Performance for all of their support, as well as our amazing partners, RFK Racing, VRS, and Podium Esports. This wouldn't be possible without our team behind the scenes. Jack, Trevor, and Ryan. Throw JP in there as well. Remember to follow along on the Roush Performance Esports Discord and Facebook pages to stay up to date with all of our future events and series. And like I mentioned, we've got a 1-week break here in the Pro Series. So let's meet back here 2 weeks from today, Wednesday, March 13th at the same time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern for round 3 of the Pro Series at VIR. Until next time, I'll see you at the finish line.